All right, the time is 7:30. I'll call this meeting of the mayor and council to order. All right, the time is 7:30. Today is February 25th, 2013. This is a regular business and public hearing of the mayor and council. All members are present. We have Councilman Kraus, who would like to lead us in tonight's invocation.
Lord, you alone are the source of every good gift, of the vast array of our universe and the mystery of each human life. We praise you and we thank you for your great power and your tender, faithful love. Everything we are and everything we have is your gift, and after having created us, you have given us the greatest gift of all gifts, your Son, Jesus Christ. Fill our minds with his truth and our hearts with his love, that in his Spirit we may be bonded together into a community of faithful, caring people. In the name and Spirit of Jesus, we commit ourselves to be good stewards of the gifts entrusted to us, to share our time, our talent, and our material gifts as an outward sign of the treasure we hold in Jesus. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. For tonight's announcements, February 26th, there will be a planning commission meeting. The meeting will begin with 7 p.m. work session and a 7:30 p.m. meeting. On March 1st, we'll have a blood drive here at City Hall in the community room from 1:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. To learn more about blood donation opportunities, visit www.redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS. On March 10th, you can watch a rebroadcast of this council meeting on Comcast Channel 25 at 6:30 p.m. March 11th, we'll have a regular scheduled council meeting, 6:30 p.m. work session in the conference room, 7:30 p.m. meeting here in council chambers. And the March 12th Board of Appeals meeting has been canceled. The Chief, if you'll come forward and lead us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, Chief, if you want to stand right there. We have next our ceremonial matters. We have 2 certificates of appreciation to award tonight. One, Jerry Walter Anderson, and the other, Matthew Todd Anderson. And if y'all would come forward, or I believe the Chief would like to say a few words before we award you your certificates.
Please come up. And I'd also like to ask Sergeant Bruce Swain to come forward, too. One of the measures of a community to determine how effective the police department can be is whether or not the community is involved. And the police department alone can never be successful without community participation and about people willing to do their duty to assist officers in what they're trying to perform. That's what we're about to talk about tonight. Sergeant Bruce Swain was dispatched to Walmart in reference to a shoplifting. You know, it was a misdemeanor shoplifting. When people hear that, they think, well, that's really not that big a deal. But actually, that's why you never know what you're going to get into and what's going to transpire. Sergeant Swain arrived at Walmart. He saw the suspect actually trying to come out through the garden center. When the gentleman saw Sergeant Swain, he turned around and went back into the store. Sergeant Swain followed into the store. He actually saw the man. They came face to face in one of the aisles, and he started to run. At that point, Mr. Anderson blocked his path, was able to make him stop, grabbed him by the arm. Sergeant Swain came. They still needed help subduing him. As they took him to the ground, a gun fell out of the man's clothing. He was also armed with a K-bar knife, which is a military-type knife. Then subsequent to that, the other Mr. Anderson came and helped assist to actually get him on the ground and subdue him until he could actually be held. Mr. Anderson and his wife actually got the gun secured so nobody else could get it. Everything they did was certainly of great help to us. But what I really wanted to point out was this, is yes, it was a misdemeanor shoplifting. Based on his resistance, he was charged with the obstruction, and which is a felony charge in this case. But subsequent to that, we received, and we do receive, lookouts and information and intelligence bulletins from the various federal agencies. Sergeant Swain was looking at these bulletins that we give out to everybody, and he recognized the same person that was arrested for shoplifting as someone who's wanted for stealing silencers from a local gun shop in another city, which is very much a federal violation. So he was able to get that information to a federal agency. The federal agency verified that's who it was and was able to make an arrest. They served a search warrant on this gentleman's house. In his house, they located other weapons, drugs. The silencer was actually already attached to another weapon, and they found some writings and plans where he had planned to attack a government building located within this county. So again, you don't ever know who these people are that we deal with. It's just because they're what we're there for, a misdemeanor shoplifting. But what I really want to do is thank these gentlemen for what they did, for getting involved and willing to take the time to help. And it's what makes our community a great place to be. Thank you very much.
Token of our appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Sergeant, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. We now have our minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the February 11th, 2013 business and public hearing minutes and the May 14th, 2012 special called meeting minutes?
Motion to approve both minutes.
There is a motion by Councilman Manuel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Howard. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of the minutes signify by raising your right hand. That's 6 in favor. All those opposed, 0 opposed. The minutes stand approved. We have no invited guests tonight, and we now have our department report. Our city manager, Butch Sanders, will be giving us a mid-year budget report. Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the few minutes that I can spend with the public and the mayor and council to go over tonight the kind of a quick and dirty financial update, given that we are 7.5 months into the year. This is going to be a mid-year report based on our 12/31 financial information. You'll notice the cover there. I wish Mr. Ewing were here. He would definitely recognize the Snell-Sawyer script there that our industrious city clerk pulled up, and I thought that was great, and it fits for a financial update. Okay? I am not, everybody needs to know that as far as reviewing a budget, it's very much just a snapshot picture of where you are at the moment. And so going over dry numbers, line item after line item, has never been my method of, my MO in giving a financial report. I've always broken it down into 3 categories: the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I can tell you for the first 6 months of this fiscal year in Snellville, the good far outweighs the bad and the ugly. So we'll go to the next slide and we'll go over some of the good news that has occurred in the first 6 months. The first item you see there, general fund revenue. 6 months, everything, the threshold is 50%. Well, our general fund revenue for the first 6 months came in at 59.19%. significantly past the 50% figure. Also good news, our general fund expenditures, which the various department heads keep an eye on in Snellville, came in at a little under 47%. So that tells me, and should tell everybody, that they're doing a good job watching public dollars. Some other good news, stormwater utility revenue. That is collected currently on everybody's tax bill. And it is almost at 100% at the end of December. We have since reached that figure, and so that's very good news as far as the efficiency of bringing our stormwater utility revenue in. Stormwater expenditures, on the other hand, we have kept those down to about 28% for the year. We have a lot of capital projects ongoing, which will bring that number up significantly. But for the first 6 months, about 27.5%. Two specific items I wanted to point out. Good news, hotel motel excise tax revenue, and everybody connected with stats should be happy to see this. We've collected almost 58% of our budgeted $80,000 amount. Probably by the end of the year, we'll be somewhere around $95,000 to $100,000 in hotel motel tax revenue. A healthy increase over last year. And also the insurance premiums tax. One of our larger revenue items, it's up almost $50,000 this year. And that's kind of good and bad. We probably will not see that kind of increase next year, but it's very good to see it in this budget. Just wanted to point out that as far as our budget tracks, our general fund budget tracks 15 different departments and 13 divisions within those departments. The divisions are in police, public works, and recreation. And only one of those 28 sections of government was over that 50% threshold as far as expenditures at mid-year. And I have to give kudos to Councilman Howard. He pointed that out a couple of months ago. We dug into it. It is in our senior center. The seniors took a big trip to Florida this year. And we went back and did the audit work, did the digging. And the reason that came in over budget was because we didn't budget the revenue and the expenditure in project accounting. We will do that next year. But we went back and looked at the numbers, and we actually broke even on that trip, even though the budget showed that we lost money on it. So that's something that Ms. Platt, myself, everybody will address that next year, and that won't be the case. Our overall general fund, that leaves us about $1.4 million in the black after 6 months, as opposed to last year at the same time where we were about 1.275 in the black. So that's the good. Let's go to just a little bit of the bad. The bad centers around sanitation. Our expenditures exceeded revenue by about $223. That's expected, $223,000. That is expected. We subsidize our sanitation. And the problem comes in where in FY12 we budgeted a subsidy of $509,000, which would have easily covered that $223 plus the next 6 months. But in 13 we only budgeted about $353,000. So we're going to be $383. Excuse me. We're going to be a little short at the end of the year, and we're going to have to. I was hoping we didn't have to dip into our budget surplus, which also was budgeted this year, and we're going to still try not to, but it's going to make it difficult there. So the silver lining there is we provide a great service when it comes to recycling. I think we provide that for the community on a very important basis. Recycling does a great service for the community, and our low city millage still includes household service. We still do not have a household garbage fee. So there are silver linings even to the bad. And let's go to the ugly. We certainly, there's only one item in that I would consider ugly in this budget report, and that's building permit fees. We're down where we should be at 50%. We're at 13% of budget, approximately $17,000. I don't know what I can do, any other incentive to Mr. Davis to get some building started out there, but it's a sad figure. Of course, spring is the biggest construction time. Hopefully, when things pick up a little bit, that budget will pick up and will look better by the end of the year. But that's an ugly number right now. That pretty much gives you the overview of our 6-month budget report. I also handed out 2 documents earlier to the mayor and council that I'd just like to mention. One is a graph showing tax-exempt bond rates. We have some outstanding debt that we're looking to refund and refinance, just like you refinance your house at home, and we're going to do that with the market at a historically low level. So this graph just proves that we have not lost anything by delaying that refunding. We're still down well below 4% for a tax exempt issue, and we're going to save a significant amount of money with that refinancing. The other item that I think everybody is probably interested in is an update on the CFI, the 78-124 intersection. Had a meeting with our engineers and the designer of the project with GDOT, and basically it is still on track for August 2013 right-of-way authorization and proceeding to buy right-of-way. And the good news is we're looking at trying to find money in next year's budget to complete the town green plan. And we wanted to make sure there was no conflict with the CFI project. And this note from the design firm confirms that there is no conflict. We can go ahead and complete the plan, or as close to the plan as possible, to complete the green without any interference from the CFI improvements. So that was good news to hear too. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer those.
I just have one question. Back on your first chart, you're showing that 95.8% of stormwater has been collected. Is it correct to assume then we received 95.8 of property tax also?
No, we have not received 95. We're a little bit below that.
Okay.
Currently, we're about 94.6.
Any other questions for Mr. Sanders? Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no consent agenda tonight. That brings us to our old business, our public hearing. We have our second reading of ZOA 13-01, consideration and action on a text amendment to delete in its entirety and replace Article 12 of the sign ordinance of 2001 zoning ordinance of the city of Snellville. Mr. Davis, you want to give us some background information?
As the mayor said, ZOA 13-01 started out as a text amendment, and it turned into replacing the chapter. We started looking at what we were giving a lot of regular variances for. And I always figured that if you're giving a regular variance, you probably need to change the law. So we took a look at the existing sign ordinance, and we made numerous changes. In your handout, there's a list of the changes, but the high points are: we created a stronger purpose and intent for the law. We added additional definitions. As new signage comes on the market, new technologies come on the market, we brought on new definitions to cover those. In addition to the written definitions that were in our old ordinance, we added photographs and line drawings to illustrate the definitions so that there would be understanding of what we were saying, or a better understanding. We've added additional wall sign types, and we have also changed our sign area calculations. The old calculation method was based on square footage of floor area in the building, which I never quite understood. Signage goes on walls on the outside. So we have reset it with a sliding scale of sign area per wall area. And for instance, what we've done is in a given sign bracket, like the lowest sign bracket we have, our lowest area bracket, is 0 to, I think, about 15 or 1,600 square feet. And that allows either a 36 square foot minimum sign or 5% of the wall area, whichever is greater. And we do that for each increment. And our increments go from 0 to 15 or 1,600 up to 4,000 and change and up. And then we're just a percentage of the building space at that point. What we have found, one of the reasons we did that is when we started looking at where we had made variances and where people had signage on larger scale buildings, the percentage of the wall area made more sense. It gave us a better handle on how to control it. We also looked at our window and door signage, and we locked that down to 40% of the window or door area. Canopy signs, we've put those on a 15% of canopy face area. And we're dealing strictly with the signage itself, like in the case of a gas station, Texaco. The sign Texaco is what we're dealing with. The other things we looked at were arm pole banners in parking lots where they may have light poles with arm banners on them. We came up with a size restriction for those banners. They're 2 by 3 feet, which is an industry standard. We did look at controlling the location of sign spinners on the side of the road. They're not going to be banned, but we are taking them out of the public right-of-way onto a hard surface on privately owned property. So they can still do that, but they won't be right on the side of the street anymore. Flags, including the feather flags, we're limiting to 3 per property, and we've kept them 50% of the distance from the entrance to the structure to the outside of the parking area or the right-of-way. Temporary signs, we have limited it to no more than 8 signs of display at a time with a total area of 32 square feet. So that's 8 4 by 2 signs. We've also looked at banners and flags, building wraps, vehicle wraps. As you know, a lot of businesses use delivery vehicles and they wrap them with an advertisement for their business, which we don't have any problem with that, but the vehicles need to be parked either at the side or the rear of the business that they serve, not put out as an additional sign on the street frontage. We did look at some sign variances that we thought should be allowed for the staff to look at. And we felt that being able to give a 25% variance, in other words, a 100 square foot sign, we could punch up to 125 max as an administrative variance. We were getting those approved on a regular basis. The biggest thing that we did with this ordinance, I think, from the standpoint of signage in the city is we've added electronic message boards. You will note they are very tightly controlled. There are light allowances of, I believe, 0.6 of a foot candle above ambient light, so they won't be overly bright in the daytime or at night. And we do not allow these lights to change more than once every 15 minutes, which sounds like not a very long time, but most signs that you see around the county change in increments of 10 to 15 seconds. We've also banished animation, flashing signage, blinking signage, fade in, fade out, anything. When an electronic sign board comes up, it's a sign. It just happens to be made out of LED pixels. The appendix also added a series of graphics, which you might see, Appendix A, B, and C, where we showed photographic examples of things that were permitted and not permitted, to give people an idea of what we were actually talking about throughout the ordinance. And we've also done, the entire ordinance has a lot of photography in it, a lot of graphics to make the illustrations better. That's all I have. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to try and answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any questions for Mr. Davis? I have one. And can you tell us, has this been sent out to our different boards and to business organizations?
Yes, ma'am. We went through a series of meetings involving the boards of the city, BOA, planning, the commission. We invited to that business interest. The information was sent out to, for instance, the Snellville Shop on Scenic and other groups, and we have posted this on our website so that everyone can see it, and we've made notations, been working with Mr. Van Otteren to get the word out to the business community as well.
Any other questions for Mr. Davis? Thank you. Do I have a motion on ZOA 13-01?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make the motion that we approve Z0A 13-01, zoning ordinance text amendment to delete and replace Article 12, sign ordinance.
There is a motion by Councilwoman Kraus. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Emmanuel. Is there discussion of the council? At this time, I'll open the floor to public comment. If you'll please state your name and address for the record if you're for or against the motion as stated for ZOA 13-01. See no response, I'll close the public comment portion. And if there's no further debate by council, I'll call the question. All those in favor of passage of ZOA 13-01 signify by raising your right hand. That's 6 in favor. All those opposed, 0 opposed. The motion stands approved. That then brings us to item number B,